Pikes Peak Christian Church was born on July 1st, 1956, when a small band of believers decided to plant a church in the bedroom community of Security, Colorado. Bob Lillie and the Rocky Mountain Christian Mission believed the community needed a New Testament congregation that would serve its families, many of whom were connected to the nearby military installation, Fort Carson.
The name chosen for the church was the Christian Church of Security because it not only identified the location of the church in the community of Security, but it also identified the kind of church it was to be, a non-denominational, Bible-believing congregation of people who just simply wanted to follow Jesus. The very first meeting of the church was at the home of Jesse and Carmen Morris on Grand Boulevard. 3 of their kids were present on that first morning: David, Levon, and Verla Morse. A couple years ago, the 2 girls came back as adults to visit the church and see what happened to the congregation that their parents helped start in 1956. Within a year, the church experienced significant growth and looked for a new location, which they found on Morningside Drive. On Easter of 1957, they had over 100 in attendance, and they knew they needed to find an even larger place. So they began the search and found the ideal location on Aspen Drive, just down the hill from the Whitefield Community Center. Construction began in 1961 with members giving both time, money, and hard labor to build that building. All this resulted in the construction of a place that now could reach more people in this community whom Jesus loved and died for.
The building was dedicated in February 1962 and served as the home for the church for the next 38 years. During that time, the congregation went through several giving campaigns that were met with financial sacrifices and a strong trust in their faith. As a result, 2 necessary expansions were completed to make room for the additional families coming to the church and for staff offices. By 1966, the church was averaging nearly 300 attendees every Sunday and called Dallas Schaefer to be their new pastor. While the average tenure of a lead pastor is about 5 years, Dallas would serve the church for an astonishing 26 years, splitting time between pastoring the congregation and teaching at Pikes Peak Community College and Whitefield High School. Dallas was an exceptional teacher and counselor who loved the congregation he served.
From the beginning, the church has had a heart for young people, and so immediately they began to offer programs like Vacation Bible School, Sunday school, and summer camps. Many of the children who came to church in these programs gave their lives to Jesus and discovered that God had a plan for their lives. Many of these kids have actually grown up in the church and attend it today.
I think my first memory of Pikes Peak or Security Christian Church is about 6th grade when I went to the sand dunes. My mom made me go to that trip, I think. I was pretty nervous about that, but I do remember feeling awful, pretty welcome from that. Junior high years that I started learning enough about what God wanted for me, what God wanted for my life. I believe that Bob and Jan, actually, she's the sweetest lady. They were instrumental in that for me learning just what Christianity meant at an early age. Biggest blessings of our lives, both Kathy and I's lives, is watching our grandkids be raised in the church like their parents were. And I hope that continues for many generations,
By 1976, the church had grown to an average attendance of 450 people with 2 services each weekend. Cars overflowed the church parking lot onto Aspen Drive. They were running out of space again. When the mortgage was finally paid off, the congregation faced another tough decision. If they wanted the growth to continue, it would mean leaving the home they had built and the place of so many memories in order to move to a new location where they could expand once again.
With the mission of Christ calling us to move again, we found a piece of land up on Whittick Drive near the community center. And with the anticipation of, if we continue to grow, build a bigger building, and then also there was a vision of building some senior housing. And we thought about that because of the opportunity to have a subsidy from the government to do that. But once that plan fell through, much of the talk was no more about a senior center, and so the thought of just having the land for a building in the future was there, but then the congregation diminished, and so it just sat there for a while.
Pastor Schaefer decided to retire and recommended the elders hire a young man that graduated from the same Midwest college he went to, a man he believed had the right spirit and faith to guide the church into the future. Little did they know how God would use those decisions to open the doors to the most explosive season of growth the church had ever experienced and enable them to have a greater impact on the community than they had ever imagined.